Mathmos, the original inventors of the lava lamp. It's a well-known product, an icon, you could say.
Cressida Granger is the owner and CEO of Mathmos, the British company that invented the iconic lava lamp 62 years ago.
I kind of often think it's a bit like a lava lamp, you know, the bubbles go up, the bubbles come down, the bubble go up again, it changes again, you know, it's always up, it's always down. I mean, that's the thing about business, they're getting smaller or they're getting bigger, you know, they're never really staying the same.
Average business lasts for about 8.5 years, and here we are with Mathmos, it's been around for over 60 years.
There's a lot of
Do you
pride
enjoy
in
it?
Yeah, I mean, there's been periods when it's been really hard and I haven't enjoyed it, but it's my thing.
So Cressida, thank you for joining us today. This is very exciting indeed. Mathmos, the original inventors of the lava lamp. It's a well-known product, an icon, you could say. And we're here in your HQ to discuss the journey of running this business for the last few decades.
Yeah.
Thanks for being with us.
No, thanks for coming, it's fun.
So I think I should probably address the fact that we're surrounded by more lava lamps than I've ever seen in my entire life. Where are we and why is this here?
So we're in the Mathmos factory in Poole in Dorset, where lava lamps were invented and where they've always been made. So we've stayed here, sort of true to our roots, because, well, now I think it's really quite special to have made something that's been invented a place, still in that place all this time. It's more expensive, but it's just,
yes,
really
I can imagine.
special. Yeah.
I can imagine the real estate's quite expensive. I noticed opposite where you've got one of the Sunseeker factories, so it's a relatively busy neighbourhood of big companies.
Yeah, it's not so much the place; it's obviously people.
Right.
When most products are made in China, and you know, all our competitors will be made in China, and most things we see and touch are made in China now. You know, it's a lot more expensive to make something in Europe than it was, but it's, you know, it means it's just a very special thing. It means we can control the quality really brilliantly, and all the processes are, you know, they're just very homegrown and special. I think it's kind of cute and kind of great, and it's very much part of Mathmos USP.
Yeah, nice. And we've met some of your team as we've walked around the building, and I take it they're all local. To the area.
Yeah.
Which is nice as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really nice. We've had people. We have a lot of long stayers, and you know, Alan, who makes the mix, has been here for over 30 years, and it's, you know, that's a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, you were talking about the length of time of the average business in the UK.
The average business lasts for about 8.5 years, and here we are with Mathmos, it's been around for over 60 years. I was actually wondering, just to bring it back to the point about Britain, the founders of Mathmos, and then to the point where you took over, was there a discussion between you and the founders about why Mathmos is inherently British? Was it important to them that it stays here, or was it important to you?
Oh, well, both. I think Edward Craven Walker and his wife Christine, he invented the lamp and he ran it with her, and she's still involved. We still see her. She's local as well. I think back in the 60s, you know, you would only have ever made it here. I mean, I think he did license agreements to make the product in other countries as well. But the economics of that have obviously completely changed since then. So I don't think it came up as a choice back then. I think it was more important to us, to me and my old business partner, and then to me and to now, to keep the lava lamp production here.
And I mean, you were talking earlier on about how most of the parts, in fact, I think all of the parts are sourced from the UK too. So not only are they assembled here in Poole, but the glass comes from
Yorkshire. Yeah. I mean, not every part, you know, bulbs and leads, it's hard. But
and do you
the
mind
vast majority.
just expanding on why that is? So when you talk about bulbs not coming from the UK, is it because the UK bulbs are too expensive, or there's just a lack of the supply? I
don't know that there are any made here. Possibly there are. Somebody will probably correct me. But yeah, and leads are very expensive here. It's very manual putting them together. But yeah, for the Astro, which is the one that's, you know, 61 years old. all the metal's spun here, the plastic's made here, the bottles are made here, the filling is here, the packaging is here. It's
Yeah.
pretty good.
It's the hub of operations.
Yeah.
This premises is relatively new, but have you always been in Poole?
Yeah, we've moved around. We started on the quay, and then we moved round the corner, and then we moved a little bit further out, and then we moved back again. Yeah, we've been moving around as the business has sort of got bigger and smaller, as it has done over the years.
Okay, and that's interesting. If you don't mind, could you expand just a little bit on as an overview as to, because you've been in business for so long with Mathmos that you've had a chance to see life cycles throughout their entire playbook, and how have things changed, and how do you respond as a business to those changing market kind of environments?
Well, I kind of often think it's a bit like a lava lamp. The bubbles go up, the bubbles come down, the bubble go up again, it changes again. It's always up, it's always down. I mean, that's the thing about business. They're getting smaller or they're getting bigger, and they're never really staying the same. So in the 60s and 70s up, and then mid 70s down, 80s down, end of the 80s started to go up through the 90s, millennium started to come down, and then about 2013 up gradually, up since then.
Okay.
I imagine it's been around for so long that it goes through that life cycle of the hot new thing, then everyone's got one, and then eventually you sort of reach that icon status where you're sort of permanently held in high regard, and then it's kind of always cool to have a lava lamp.
Yeah, I mean, definitely there was ups and downs at the beginning. And also the way that products sell is different as well. So because of the internet, there's much more of a room for a long tail, and there's much more of a room for many, many different products. So it used to be, if you were stocked in shops, that you were either moving off the shelves and people were rebuying you, or you weren't. But whereas now it's different. But yeah, I think now Mathmos lava lamps are more of a cult item. It's more static. It's not so fashion led. Whereas in the 90s, it was definitely out of fashion in the 80s, in fashion in the 90s. Suddenly, whoosh, up we go. But it's much more static now, and it's a sort of more here to stay kind of product group now.
And are there inflection points in terms of the types of products? Obviously, we've got the Astro, which is the original, and now you've sort of got these big, I would assume not bespoke pieces, but these larger pieces, that are into sort of the thousands of pounds, that are big statements that you would have in your living room or in an office or what have you. And at what point did those sort of larger statement pieces come into Mathmos?
We always did them. They did them in the 60s as well.
Wow,
they were huge ones. It's a small part of the business. It's really just for fun. It's really just to have the biggest one. And they are production pieces. So they're not made, we don't make bespoke one by one. We make them in runs.
Right.
So yeah, there was one called the Princess in the 60s with wooden legs. We've got one somewhere knocking about. So yeah,
cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, the Saturn that we make now is a sort of, a progression from that, in the 3 legs, and it's metal, not wood. But yeah.
Have you seen a resale market in the lava lamps? And if so, do you have anything to do with it? Do you bring back old pieces, or is there sort of another sort of ecosystem in which people are buying and selling classic pieces?
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's a lot about that. Collecting's a big deal. And we have a lot of collectors, and there are lots of collectors of lava lamps, particularly obviously Mathmos. We encourage it in that we do short runs of things, we do limited editions, we do special fills. When we release a new thing, we'll etch. At the moment, we're etching everything bought in the first weekend, gets a special unique number. And so we really sort of encourage that, and it's great. And yes, there is an ecosystem, and people talk to each other, and there's various groups and blogs and, resale market. Yeah.
I know your marketing team monitoring that. Are they monitoring the sentiment going around? Are you using that perhaps in future developments?
Yeah. I mean, we survey our customers regularly. We have a lot of repeat purchasers, a lot of people who collect. They talk to us directly. They have their own groups. We look at them occasionally.
I can see the collection being a real kind of that being interesting to some people, because I was already impressed by one lava lamp, and then we walked into here, and I never want to leave. Like, what's more impressive than one lava lamp? 50, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
people become quite emotional about them. There are lots of people with lots of them.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And actually, while we're talking about people with lots of them, and we're sat beside this wall, I think it's probably an appropriate time to raise the kind of novelty about lava lamps that not a lot of people are aware of, which is that lava lamps underpin quite a lot of internet security. And people might hear that and think, what on earth are you talking about? And for reasons that you'll enlighten us to, there are walls like this of lava lamps in large companies like Cloudflare, being monitored by cameras. And the production, the shapes and the movement of each lava lamp produce unique code into the cameras that go on to contribute towards encryption of the internet. That was a layman, probably wrong in many ways, description of it, but you get the idea. But the question then becomes, why did they choose to use lava lamps for that task? And why did they use lava lamps for that?
It's all about the chaos. So yeah, it's you can't predict it. It doesn't repeat. And I think that's really the whole point. That's what makes them elemental, like a real fire, or that's what draws your attention. That's what it's all about, really. The movement of the lava and the chaos. So they're perfect for that purpose. Yeah.
So wacky to think that a scene similar to this, although not quite as impressive, probably is what fuels the internet security.
Yeah.
It really boggles my mind, and it's kind of one of those things where, of course, the lava lamp wasn't invented for that purpose, and yet serves the purpose perfectly.
Yeah.
And I know it's not they're not repeat buyers, I imagine, of lava lamps to fulfill the task, but an interesting thing about lava lamps nonetheless.
I think it's lovely because they're such an analog thing, but yet they have relevance in the digital age.
Yes.
For something, which is really nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
You showed us off camera a little bit about how they work, and through my ignorance, I actually didn't realize any of it until you told us. And who better to hear it from? So could you just talk to us a little bit about the separate pieces that contribute to making a lava lamp?
Yeah. So essentially, it's a bottle, which is made in a bottling plant. So you've got a very consistent wall thickness. So they're made like in one day run, you make 30,000 bottles or something. And then the bottles come here and they get filled with our unique lava lamp formula.
Yeah.
And then the astro is spun base and cap. So that's a metal spinning thing. It's a bit like throwing pottery, except it's horizontal. You have a horizontal machine, if you're doing it by hand, which most of them are, a little flat round disc, and it spins around a chuck, and you sort of do like this and spin the metal around a chuck, and then they're either anodized or painted. There's a little Minlon base that pops in the bottom, which is made down the road, and a lead and a bulb. So the bulb underneath heats and lights the lamp.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think this leads quite nicely into the sustainability piece that we were talking about as well, about how everything that you see with the lava lamp can be repaired, replaced and reused.
Yeah.
So if you could just talk to us a little bit about how that happens and why that's important to you.
Yeah, so we sell bottles, so they last about 2,000 hours, which is, if you use them every day, that's about a year, and then you can buy a new bottle, you can buy a new bulb, and we really make sure that we have a really good stock of spares all the time, and that we regularly offer sort of discounts on spares as well, so that people can afford to keep them going. And it's really important to us that they don't end up in landfill, that they will always be reconditioned, they can be resold, reused. They're collector's pieces, there's no need to throw them away. So it's very important to us. And we support the sort of right to repair legislation that's coming from Europe, so that electronics products don't end up in landfill and always are reused. Yeah.
And so if someone wants to spend a lot on buying multiple ones or a really expensive piece, they don't have to worry about keeping it in bubble wrap and never using it for fear of it being used and then breaking and not being able to be used again. So that's something that's
Yeah.
conscious, and that works across all pieces.
All the lava lamps, all the classic lava lamps. We did have a period at the beginning of this millennium when we made lots of LED products, and we have some spares for those, but not all of them. But yeah, our classic lava lamps we do.
Nice. It's what's quite interesting to me is that we've spoken to a lot of digital businesses, and in the digital business landscape, I suppose, the product that they produce is under constant iteration, constantly being improved, and if it doesn't improve, it's kind of stagnant and kind of gets left behind. And it seems to me that because of the age and maturity of Mathmos, that now you have refined your product design. I'm curious to know if for you the product design is still something that's kind of a relevant agenda, or is that kind of, dare I say, kind of done and sorted and then sort of put to the side with respect to the running of the business?
No, I mean, we have quite a good range, and we've launched quite a few new models in the last, few years. So we do launch new products, not that many. And, it's a total failure for me if it lasts less than sort of 20 years.
Right. As a model.
As a model. Yeah.
Okay. And what decides how long it lasts is whether people are buying it.
Yeah.
So if people aren't buying it, it's a failure.
Yeah.
And with regards to the production of the actual piece, now that you have so much experience in producing lava lamps, is it a stress-free, carefree process of kind of drawing out what it's going to look like on paper and seeing it come to life? Or is there still, even for you, learnings and things go wrong and all the rest of it?
Oh, no, constant. I mean, wouldn't it be lovely if you just press that button and it all just goes a little bit. Yeah. No, I mean, no, there's constant, stresses and strains in production and sales, and the world changes. And I mean, it's like the leopard, everything must change so that some things can remain the same, or the other way around. Right. Yeah. So no, there's still lots of things change all the time.
Yeah. And the reason I ask really is because, of course, when you're in the early part of a business and it's kind of in the first few years of launch, designing a product that is fit for the market and ready for your consumer is one of the hardest things to do. And that last 5% is particularly challenging to complete. And I think it's easy to fall into the perception that as you're building your business, once you have an idea of how you create your product, that stress, that kind of drain on the business will be complete. But I don't think there's a better example than someone like Mathmos to showcase that even when you are the experts in producing a particular type of product, that when you want to design new variations of that product, it's still a challenging process to complete. Yeah. Which is a relief. It's kind of a relief, and it's also kind of daunting to know that if you're in business, that's never going to change.
That's never going to change. No. Even and we're we must have more static product range than most people.
Yeah, sure.
But still, it's a big challenge all the time. Yeah.
But your static product range is still there because people are purchasing it.
Yeah, and also because we're always looking at how it can be better. It can always be better. There's always some little element of every product that's under review or under change.
Okay.
So yeah, and quality is really important to us. So, and working with suppliers to make sure that quality is consistent and our own quality is consistent. It's a never-ending thing.
Yeah.
And something you can do, which you have done with products that have been around for a long time, is collaborations. So you've shown us collaborations you've done with Duran Duran. And I was just wondering how important that is to Mathmos, and what's the reasoning behind the collaborations you've chosen?
I think it's particularly good for us and probably important for us to reappraise our classic products with fresh eyes, and to get different creatives to look at our classic product and say, well, what would I do with that? To represent it and to give a fresh eyes to it and a fresh take on it. So we'll do more of those. I think it was really fun and went down really well. They all sold out instantly. I think it worked well for the collaborators as well. The whole economics of it was good. Collectors loved it. It was all very positive. Yeah.
And when you say sold out, I mean, obviously, because we're evil capitalists. Selling out means you sell more of them.
Yeah.
Did you decide to sell more, or did you keep it as a limited edition? Was that part of the agreement with the collaborator?
For our 60th, we did 5 collaborations, and it was 60th, so we did 600 units of each. And that was the agreement, that they would be numbered. They would be 600. They wouldn't be repeated. That was the end of that. And they all sold out on the first day, the first 2 days.
Wow.
Straight away. And then last year we only did one. We did a longer run, 1,000, and it cost a bit more. That's crashed. Websites crashed, sold out in hours.
Really? Wow.
So yeah, they're quite successful, I think. And we structured it so that it was good for the collaborators as well. So good slug of a royalty, nice PR agency in Britain and in Germany, got loads of PR, quite a painless design process,
Nice, okay.
make it very easy,
And
very collaborative.
Why did you do that?
Why did we make it easy?
Yeah.
So that it would be a smooth process, so that we laid out very sort of clearly the commercial deal, and there wasn't really a negotiation about it either. We just went with a suggestion. Everybody had the same. It worked for everybody. There wasn't any haggling.
Yeah. I mean, of course, it's a kind of tongue-in-cheek question, because of course you'd want to make it easy for them to collaborate with you, but in actual practice, when you're running a business, you're putting resources into, let's say, helping your partner to do a certain thing. And on a black and white spreadsheet of business, when it doesn't result in profit as a kind of short-term success, it can be easy to not prioritize, right? So the experience for the collaborator of working with Mathmos ultimately ended in a better product that Mathmos sold.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to see that relationship of the product being complete starts with the initial conversations with the collaborator, how easy it is for them to actually communicate the ideas to Mathmos as to what they want to be done and things like that. That's all part of the picture, right, to making the best product on the market. Yeah.
I mean, we went to the briefing document about what you can and cannot do is very comprehensive. It's probably so comprehensive that people don't read it all. So that there's a few conversations, but and of course it's easier for a product designer like Sabina Marsalis or Studio Jobs to cut their way through that, and to it's harder for someone like Rankin, who's a photographer. But it makes it much. I mean, the waste of time in it is the backwards and forwards. And where everybody gets exasperated is when there's a lot of that, because that takes time and costs money and delays. So the more we could get rid of any of that, and before we could not have any conversations about, I want to do it in a different shape, or I want to do this, or I want, no. These are the areas you can change. This is very clear. This is the commercial deal. This is what's going to happen. This is what we expect of you. This is what we're going to do. It's all laid out. It's all straightforward from the very beginning. Yeah.
Including the commercials.
Everything.
Right. So it's a kind of agreement. It's an offer of agreement.
Oh, it's an agreement, yeah.
Okay.
And did you notice an uptick in all Lava Lamp Mathmos products after those collaborations? So say, for example, someone missed out on one of those 600 pieces. They just thought, okay, well, I kind of now would love to have a lava lamp. I'm just going to buy the same shape, but not a collaboration version.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, we're reaching new people, because our collaborators are reaching their followers. So we're reaching a whole new audiences that we wouldn't necessarily reach. And then we're reaching people also through the PR or through the socials because of them. And then they're seeing the whole range and they think, oh yeah, I like the silver one.
How do you decide on who to collaborate with?
Well, we pick people we think would work. We think, we pick people we think, there's a lot of, from Mathmos Lava Lamps, there's a lot of different angles you can go at, there's a lot of little different types of people who buy lava lamps for different reasons. So we might tap into different bits of that, and then you approach people and, it's all a bit random really. Sometimes it's easy to find people, sometimes it's not, sometimes they read the email, sometimes they don't. It's a little bit up in the air.
I suppose you have the benefit of they've definitely heard of Lava Lamp.
Probably, yeah.
I think so.
I would have thought so.
I would have thought so. And if there happens to be some creative listening to you talk about lava lamps right now, does Mathmos intend to work with other collaborators in the near future?
Yeah, totally.
Okay, so they could reach out to you with
Totally could, yeah.
their ideas, or request the brochure pack of what they can and can't do, I should say.
Yes.
And just going back to finally on the collaborators, you said they sold out in the first 1 or 2 days. Of course, you're an e-commerce business.
Yeah.
You sell most of your stock online.
Yeah.
How do you actually get the information out about a new collaboration and a new product line to your consumers? What's your preferred way, the most successful way you find?
Well, we put it up online. We send everybody an email. We tell them it's coming, on socials. So, and on email.
Okay.
So we would, preview that something is happening to watch out.
Nice, to get them excited.
Get them excited, and then it would drop. We'd tell them when it's going to drop, and then we'd drop it, and that's it. And drop it simultaneously. We've got 10 European websites.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, so we manage them, all locally optimized, all...
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So that's Mathmos, their local domain.
Yeah.
And you've chosen to do that because it's better.
Yeah, because we're in a tiny little niche, so that we optimize really well in Denmark, for the local words for lava lamp, as well as advertising. But our SEO is really good all over Europe, and that means we can communicate in the local language. That it's all properly translated. Yeah. If there's local payment methods or local things that we need to deal with, then we deal with them.
And that explains why, it was really cool, I think, upstairs, how you have your customer service divided into geographic regions.
Yeah.
You have, specific nationality to deal with your customer base.
Yeah.
And that's actually quite unusual. We haven't seen that before in the offices we've been to so far. I know you have a kind of international consumer base, so perhaps it's more relevant to you, but it's a nice touch to add.
We've always done that. So even when we were wholesale, so in the 90s, we've always, export's been, well, it's more fun, isn't it? You go to Paris rather than Birmingham, it's just more fun. So we've always done that. We always have not just language speakers, but local, so German people who live in Britain. Dealing with the German market. So they are dealing with all, not just the language, but the local nuances, of which there are many, and you don't necessarily know what they are. So that the stress is not, we don't manage the stress internally rather than with the customer.
Right. Yes. I see.
Yeah. So the bigger the market gets, then we would have local people dealing with that market. So I think that's Europe's very bitty, isn't it? It's a lot of work dealing with Europe. And I think that's Americans always, you can just have a European website, No.
.com.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Okay.
No, it's so different. The way the Germans buy things is very different to the way the Italians buy things.
Yes, indeed. And then just my last question on that, with regards to your communication with your consumers. When you're informing them of an upcoming release, let's take a collaborator example.
Yeah.
This is something that you, Kourosh and I often jostle about as to what to let people in on as kind of updates, right? And where I'm going with this is, do you wait until the collaborator's lava lamp is complete and you have the finished article in your hand before you tell your consumer base that something is coming? Or do you take a risk and when the collaborator has begun work on the lava lamp, start to inform your consumer base? Do you see where I'm coming from there?
Yeah, I do. I would rather have it in stock, in the warehouse, in the box, before I tell anybody.
Yep.
Because something can go wrong.
Yep.
And I don't want to misinform anybody or...
That's right.
Yeah.
There would be brand damage because it's actually, you see it's a much more common theme now for company updates to be kind of promises as opposed to deliveries. And I think you take large brands like SpaceX who come along and do a lot more showing than talking.
Yeah.
So the first time people hear about rockets that can re-land, they get to watch the rocket re-land.
Yeah.
And then people really care about it.
Yeah.
And if you kind of overcommit as a company, but you can't deliver, there's a cost to that.
Yeah. And also you've lost the march, haven't you? If you're talking about something that's coming, but you haven't got it for sale, by the time everybody's bored, they've moved on by the time you've actually got to sell it. So I think I'd much rather do it at the moment.
Mathmos strikes me as a company that cares about culture. So the company started in Britain, it's still in Britain. You have German speakers dealing with German customers, the same with French and Italian. I was just wondering, through those communications, it's clearly important to you that the company understands its customer. Have there ever been examples of customer feedback that has prompted a change within any of the Mathmos products?
Oh, well, sure. Yeah, I mean, we did a big survey. I'm trying to remember how many we had. I mean, enormous. We have massive responses from our surveys, and we pour all over them. So, too many to comment, really.
Okay.
I mean, huge amounts of change on the way we deal with everything, really, and what's important to them and what they want and what they don't want and what's not important. Yeah, I mean, it's really, really important what our customers think.
And I assume that's more on a functionality basis, more so than a design basis. I assume the design is something kept quite close to the team.
It is, but yeah, and I mean, they're very, very opinionated about
Sure.
What people want to see, what they don't want to see, what they're not really interested in. I mean, you have to think, probably the big innovations are not coming from customers, but the general direction is, and lots of little things, endless number of little things about product and process.
And how about things like, not necessarily that necessarily came from a customer, but it was certainly for customers, was the decision to create a product that was safe to be used around children. Could you talk to us a little bit about how that came to be and the ultimate design that you created so that it's safe to be around children?
Yeah, I mean, children love lava lamps, they just go straight to them. But, they're bottles.
Children.
Yeah, they're children, and they're glass vessels with liquid in them and lights, and they're hot. And, so it seemed obvious that it would be great to have lava lamps. And loads of lava lamps are marketed for children, which are not tested for children and are not safe for children, and are deeply unsafe to put in a child's room, some cheap Chinese lava lamp that isn't tested for anyone, probably. So, yeah, we developed our Neo product for children, for all ages. It's not just for children. And, it's, there's loads and loads of development. It took years to make one that's safe for children, low voltage, cool, shatterproof, can't touch the bulb. All the
So when you say safe for children, it's sort of, it's the kind of lamp that you could leave in a room with a child.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That would be the test. Yeah.
Nice.
But actually, we learned that most of our Neo is bought for adults.
Right.
And we learned that, from our customer surveys and from asking people. And we launched a black one, which isn't really aimed at children. Oh, the black one, yeah. And that sells really, really well. And it looks really cool, and people really like it. So, yeah.
We've spoken about perhaps unsafe Chinese knockoffs. Can we talk a little bit about competitors?
Sure.
Damned be them, but can we talk about them and the battle that you face dealing with them?
Yeah, I mean, we have competitors just like everybody does. And the better we do, the more competitors we have. So, I mean, in the 90s, we didn't have any competitors. We had a lovely monopoly, gorgeous situation, nobody else selling lava lamps, marvellous, everybody buying them. Now we have competitors, so it's different. So we're not selling all the lava lamps, we're selling the best lava lamps. So very important that our products are the best design, our products have the highest quality, our products are the best service, our products are just way better in every possible way than our competitors. So that is our focus. We're not trying to own the lava lamp market. If people want to buy cheap ones, they are available. Don't buy ours, please, just buy those.
So there was a pivot in strategy. It went from mass selling to we only now sell the best.
Yes.
Right, okay.
And I think that's the right decision to make, because consumers are becoming more and more well-informed, and it's easier for consumers to communicate with each other. Whereas I think the markets of 30 years ago, it was really, you were told by the retailer what to think about the product, and you might have an opposing opinion, but that was kept to yourself, and the swear words you cast in your living room when you found out it didn't do what you wanted to do. But nowadays, if you sell a bad product to one consumer, they pass on that feedback to many more. And the consequence is that if you prioritize the quality of your product, you can rely on a consumer to kind of be an ambassador of it if you can showcase it.
Yeah.
I suppose the challenge then is the quality of your lava lamps. It's hard to see from just sight compared to, say, the online listing of another lava lamp that looks identical in many respects, but I can't see from just the digital version that the quality is not comparable.
No, I mean, that is the challenge, that all your assets on your website everything has to sort of speak of the quality, speak of the service. You have to be convinced on that digital page of all those things. But it's also difficult in the shop because you can see two and you can think, oh, well, that one's more expensive. It looks nicer. But you don't know the heritage, you don't know the service, you don't know how it's going to work in a year, you don't know you can't communicate all those other things. So in a way, the online is easier to communicate a lot of those USPs, and you can see the reviews and so forth. So it is a different way of selling.
It makes me think of those, I don't know if you've seen like those viral, I think they come out of China actually. It's a video guy selling motorbike helmets, and he has 5 motorbike helmets lined up, and he goes along and he whacks each helmet with a metal pole, and the first 4 just crumple, and they all look like the same helmet, and then the 5th one doesn't crumple. And I can imagine the same kind of viral advertising scheme where you take a child-proof lava lamp and a knockoff Chinese lava lamp, and a butterfly flies into both, and it smashes the Chinese lava lamp to bits, and not the child one. Because
that's a great idea. We shall do that.
How else do you bring to life the fact that the consequence of buying a poor quality lava lamp, and the reason you've invested so much time into it, is because it's all good and juicy until you're at a house party and one explodes on your shoulder. And then it's not so
not so funny.
So great.
I made the point earlier about the average age of a business in the UK is 8.5 years, and Mathmos is now 60 plus. I was just wondering, what's the secret to the longevity?
Staying in the game. Number one. There's been, lots of bad patches, and good patches. It's mainly not giving up.
Turning up the next day.
Keeping on going, I mean, we have a great product, And I think it's ironic that, it's a sort of pop design product. It's a sort of, in a way, when it was launched in the 60s, you'd have thought it would have gone in 2 years. Sort of, oh, look, it's this year's thing. Oh, no, it's gone. No, here it is still. It's 61. So I think we have an enduring product that still finds resonance. And
in going up. I mean, your consumer interest is going up. Right? You're on that we're on the up chapter.
We are. So great product. And I think great people. We have really nice people who are very, and I think it's helped that it's here. There's a lot of pride in it. Do you enjoy it? Yeah. I mean, there's been periods when it's been really hard and I haven't enjoyed it. But it's my thing, for now, I'm looking after it for now. So yeah, I do enjoy it. And people think, oh, this must be boring. It's so not boring. It changes all the time.
What brought you to it in the first place?
I was a vintage dealer. So I was selling 60s and 70s stuff. And then started selling these. And I was going to open a shop with a deco dealer. And we were going to do vintage stuff, and then, but these were always the commercial thing. And then I started buying them from the factory, and it was in Poole. My parents live in Poole, so I used to come to the factory and buy them and put them on my stand, and they would just all sell. You just put them out, and they would just all sell, like nothing else sold.
So when I asked you about that ecosystem of reselling, you had a wry smile because you were the first ecosystem.
Yeah, so it's like, wow, those sell really well. And then all the other stallholders used to try and find out where I got them. So I used to burn the boxes so they couldn't find out where to get them.
Nice.
And then they found out where to get them. It was really annoying. So then we approached we were going to open a shop, but I thought, well, why don't we see if we can make lava lamps instead? So we tried to make them. And we got the chemist to look at the formula, and we couldn't work out how to do it. So we wrote to the inventor of the lava lamps, could we buy the formula so we could make lava lamps? And he basically invited us to come and take over the business and buy it from him over time, which is what we did.
Wow, because his circumstances.
He was in his 80s or late 70s.
Right.
It was tiny.
Yeah.
He wanted someone else to look after it.
And so, do I understand correctly? You were able to take over the business and pay the cost of the business in instalments, effectively, as the business continued to run.
Yes. So we bought.
Nice.
We had to pay for the machinery, such as it was. It wasn't very much. We had to rent the little bit of factory that we were in from him. And then we had to buy all these components that he had in the storage and polytunnels in his garden.
Oh.
And they were all, full of dirt, and we had to wash all the bottles and clean all the leads. It took years to buy the business from him. And then we paid him a royalty until he died.
And sorry, the reason you were buying it from him was because you couldn't work out how to do the what was it that he had that you wanted?
Well, we couldn't do anything. We were antique dealers and we had no clue at all.
Right.
But yeah, it was. Well, it ended up being brilliant because we had the original company and all the rest of it. Originally, we just thought, let's make lava lamps,
That was the right lava lamp company to buy, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going to buy a lava lamp company,
there was only
That was the only one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it just ended up like that. And then, of course, it was wholesale. It was all wholesale until this millennium, pretty much.
I see. Okay, to other retailers. And do you still do wholesale?
Tiny bit we do. It's very annoying. We do a little bit.
Legacy surprises me for some reason. I don't know why.
Why that we don't, or that we do?
The wholesale isn't larger. That more shops, as you experienced yourself, you put them up in your shop and everything they sold, and they're so impactful in a shop that more shops don't choose to sell them.
Well, shops are a nightmare now. I mean, also the economics is different. So if you make a thing for £5 and then you sell it to a shop for a tenner, then they sell it for 25. Or you could make it for £5 and sell it for 25. And also there's the recommended retail issue when you make classic product. So you're not allowed, it's illegal to specify and enforce a recommended retail price. So your retailer can discount if they want to, legally. So if you've got classic product and people keep discounting it, it gets undermined.
Right, they can draw it away from your...
Yeah, you can't, and then you get in the position where you're competing with yourself. Your sales are competing with your retailer's sales.
Yeah.
And it gets very messy, and you spend a lot of time trying to manage that relationship so that doesn't happen. It's just a waste of time.
Right. And so the little bit of wholesale that you do still do, is that just sort of existing relationships with retail stores you do like and you can kind of get by?
Yeah, we don't do any trade. And the whole thing, you do trade shows, which it feels like the past to me.
Yeah.
It just feels like an old model. We travel out there and do a stall in Germany, and then somebody comes and buys it and then puts it in their shop. I mean, there's just so many people in the middle. Makes the product more expensive.
And that doesn't feel like necessarily an opinion that Mathmos has kind of been there, done that, and it's now beyond that. It's more a case of like, now with what you've seen and learnt, that's not the most effective use of resources.
It really isn't. No, I feel that is the past. We used to do that.
There's still a lot of trade shows. A lot of people go to trade shows. And I think some people do find success from them. There are some examples.
Yeah.
But for the most part, especially when you see the prices of some of the admissions to these places, £1,000 or £2,000.
And if you're the time.
Yeah, right.
You've got to design your trades. You spend more time designing your trades than designing your products if you're not careful. I mean, it's just terrible time suck, if you ask me. But I suppose we're lucky because we're in a tiny little niche, and you can dominate that niche online. We're not selling a broad spectrum of products, so we can optimize for lava lamp all over Europe. We're in this little niche.
Nice.
So and also the price point is great for online. It's not too expensive that you need to see and touch it, but it's not so cheap that you can't really make a margin because of the carriage being what it is. So it's a nice price point for selling online, and about the right size product as well. Just works well online.
So what risks are there that you're aware of to Mathmos? Apart from competitors, let's say, are there risks to the company?
There's regulatory risks. Regulations change all the time about lighting.
Interesting. That's quite a lot. I think they've made halogen bulbs in the US, incandescent, sorry. They've made them illegal, right?
And halogen.
Unless it's for reptiles.
Yeah. So, we exist on various little exemptions for this and that, which is, is fine for now. That changes. There's so many things that can change it. And if one of your component comes from the other end of the world and, any kind of shipping route or any kind of war or...
Is that something that you try and kind of build into a plan? So let's say, for example, you have a cable for your child-proof lava lamp. If the supplier of that particular product is someone you don't have a great or a sort of well-established relationship with, will you look to have multiple suppliers of that product to
we
prevent
would.
for that? Or?
We might not manage it for everything, but we would try and second or third or fourth source things. Yeah. So many things can change, can't they? An algorithm online, or the way Amazon deals with things, or competitors' quality could affect us.
Do you sell via Amazon?
We do. We're a merchant on Amazon. We sell direct.
And how do you find that experience?
Needs must. We have to, really.
But it's worse than selling directly.
Of course, you're not in control. Anything can change.
Well, what do you lose control of that's detrimental to the process?
If somebody puts Mathmos in on Amazon, all our competitors come up, for instance. And not, people may not realise, they don't realise a lot of the time they're not buying Mathmos because they come to us for spares and,
interesting. Right.
And that used to happen a lot with retailers.
Yeah.
John Lewis would use ours to sell everybody else's, and they'd think they'd be buying Mathmos and they wouldn't be, and then they'd come to us for spares, or my product doesn't work, well, it's not our product.
And there's nothing you can, I suppose, of course, there's nothing you can really, because the patents have expired, as you said, there's not necessarily kind of anything you can do about that, right? Apart from making the product just better than the other products.
No, you can own your brand. We own our brand, obviously. And we have some patents and we have some design registrations for different bits in different places.
Right.
So, but everybody has competitors.
Something that we often ask people about on the podcast, because it's aimed at entrepreneurs, is funding, investment. It's obviously such a big part of the business scene. Is that something relevant to you? Have you done funding rounds?
No, we've always just bootstrapped, always just paid ourselves less to reinvest and grow.
That's incredible. We don't get many 60-year-old companies who are doing that.
No. I think I'm very motivated by being in control.
Right.
The idea of having investors telling me what to do.
You just become a boss again, right?
Doesn't really appeal. But it is a challenge when you're making stuff, because obviously your money is in the stuff. So when you're growing and you're a product company,
you need capital to...
Yeah, it is hard. But no, we've always just done it like that.
Maybe we could just touch on that a little bit, because I think that's really insightful. And also perhaps a little bit more on you personally at a stage. We spoke about it from a personal aspect, but when you come to acquiring a business, it's quite an unusual thing for people to do these days. They typically start a business. Just from what we see the very typical life cycle of a business is some people start a business, they go to a VC, they get their investment, and they basically get on a hamster wheel and try and live as long as they can.
Yeah, but there's so many businesses out there. It's very hard to sell small businesses. And there's probably a lot of businesses out there that probably don't have much resale value or very hard to sell, or it costs as much to sell them as to give them away, frankly. So, I don't know why people don't approach people more.
To buy businesses.
Yeah, to buy them over time.
And so talk me through that process, the actual nuts and bolts, because people say things like, I acquired a business, but where do you start? You send an initial inquiry, you get your lawyers involved at what stage? How does it actually play out over the period in which you're approaching and it's being agreed?
I mean, it didn't occur to us to do this. It was Mr. Walker's idea that we should buy this business from him over time. But I do think it's something that you could do. You could approach somebody to see if you could buy their business over time. So it worked that we came to work at Mathmos and paid ourselves very little. I think it was 12 grand, a long time ago.
Yeah.
And slept on the floor, David used to sleep on the factory floor. I used to sleep at my parents' house at the beginning, paid ourselves very little. And then we bought the plant and machinery first. So I think it was 20 grand or 25 grand or something for the plant and from the profits. And then we bought all the bits, and then we paid a royalty for the rest of the inventor's life. So, buying the business was broken down into little easily understood chunks. And I think at the beginning, Mr. and Mrs. Walker, they retained 80% shares and we had 20% at the beginning. And then once we bought the plant and machinery, we had more percentage. And then once we bought the bits, the components, then we got another percentage. And they got more expensive. And then the last 20% was the most expensive, I seem to recall. So that's how it worked. And I mean, it doesn't have, there's lots of different ways of doing this, aren't there?
I've not heard of a way like that before. Was it contingent? Of course, for you personally, it was contingent on the success of the business, but did certain milestones trigger the next stage of sort of acquisition, as it were?
Yes, well, it was all done literally on the back of an envelope. On the back of an envelope. We will do this, you will do this, we will do this, and we had like a 10-point thing that we were going to do. And I always wanted it to be legally drawn up.
Yeah.
And Mr. Walker did not want any form of legal agreement. So it was always a bit nerve-wracking. Because I was worried that he wouldn't, follow through. But he did. But he probably only did because we did everything we said we were going to do, and because it's succeeded.
And I don't know why, maybe I'm a bit woody-doody, but I like to imagine that somehow he knew that you were the right guardian for his company, right? Because you have taken what he built and made the most of it.
Yeah, he was pleased.
And I think he could probably tell that, because that will have been important to him. Given his age, he wasn't looking for just a massive check. No,
I think, I'd been buying them and selling them on Camden Market for years.
Right.
So he knew I could sell them. And my business partner, when I started with Mathmos, David, was older than me, and he was a man. And I think, man, and, girl selling things, man making things. He kind of, I think he was an older man, Mr. Walker. So I think he probably thought, I'll give them a go, and then we were quite, we were very respectful and very reliable, and we worked really hard, and, we grew the business, we doubled the business in size every year, for 10 years, in fact, yeah.
One of the other questions I wanted to ask, and I feel like I have to, because you're the lava lamp lady, is what are the products out there? Not necessarily UK made, but is there anything else that stands out to you? This is completely, off field. What you know what I'm kind of trying to say? What other things stand out to you? What other things do you like that are out there? Not lava lamps, but...
I really like, there's a company called Wholesale. Do you know Wholesale?
Never heard of them.
Okay, so they make shelving. It's designed by Dieter Rams, who's a classic German functional designer, brilliant. And they make, like us, they make classic product, but they're more so than us, Have a look. Wholesale, amazing company. Okay. Up in Leamington Spa now. They make these beautiful shelves. You can sell bits of them, you can move them around. They're very, very classic, very, very limited range.
Nice. Okay. And the price point, very expensive?
Expensive.
Oh, okay.
Worth it.
Worth it.
I have some of their shelves that I had a few bits that were extra. You sell them on eBay for more than you paid for them.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's
a brilliant company.
And of course, company, by the sounds of it, with a similar situation to yourself, which is there are lots of companies who produce shelves,
Yeah.
and you don't know how good a shelf is until you've put it up.
No. Yeah. No.
Is that something you really look out for as a consumer of products? Are you drawn to that, high quality sort of something that you don't necessarily have to buy multiples of because they break down?
No, totally, yeah. I mean, now we have to buy as little as possible, buy really good quality things, buy stuff you can repair, buy stuff that works properly. Yeah.
Totally.
Something that I have to ask, especially before it ends, is how many lava lamps are in your house?
They come and go.
No, okay.
Oh, yeah, nice.
So, prototypes come in and I play with them, they go, more come. My son has a few that he keeps.
Nice.
Yeah.
And if you could have one lava lamp for the rest of your life in your room, what would it be?
An astro.
An astro.
An astro.
Yeah, of course.
And what colours would they be?
You've got to say the colour too, right?
Oh.
We'll show a photo. We'll do an overlay right now of the collaboration, the soft focus one.
Yeah,
that you
yeah.
pointed out
I'll
earlier
have
on.
a Sabine
Chris will
white
get a
one.
capture of
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Because that is a nice one.
Yeah.
That's
It is
very
a nice one. Yeah, I like the frosting. It just
Yeah,
adds
the
a-
frosting is nice.
Yeah.
And is that unique to only that one? Because I haven't seen
Yeah,
any.
she thought of that. That'll be her thing. Yeah,
Fabulous. Okay,
great.
Cressida, I think that's probably it.
Yeah,
We've
no,
taken
that's
enough
great.
of your time, so thank you very much
No,
for talking
thank
with
you.
us
Thank you
today.
so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.